Let me get my stack here and get focused. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for my analysis of the British petroleum oil spill that is now entering its third month. We have the White House and the BP executives, when they're not out at yacht racing events or when Obama is not at a baseball or basketball game or having a gala party, they're saying it now may last until Christmas or perhaps for several years, and that only 2% of the oil, they estimate, has been released. And BP and the White House say that there is at least 2 billion gallons, 2 billion with a B, gallons left, or 98% more to come out of the hole. Many experts are on record saying that if they slant drill and detonate a hydrogen bomb, that because the fissures have already broken through and there's oil plumes up to 20 miles away coming out of the ocean floor, that this will probably just shatter things further and could release a mega massive oil spill, dwarfing the one we now see, and that there's always, people keep calling into talk radio and saying, you know, is there natural gas down there? Is there methane? Could there be a giant explosion? Well, of course there's natural gas. In any of these super deep wells, they hit it at 4, 5, 6, 7 or more layers as they go down. And yes, we know there are giant gas domes in the Gulf. And yes, using a nuke will probably detonate a lot of those different underground gas domes that are in those different strata. And will cause an even bigger crisis, which is great for the government. They'll just nationalize oil companies that much faster and slap a big carbon tax on you. But all of that doesn't matter. You know, everybody's obsessing over the BP CEO stepping down because he got caught out racing yachts. Or Obama talking about nationalizing the oil companies or his carbon taxes. All of that is important. But it is dwarfed in comparison to our top story today. And let's go back to November. It had just broken in the German and British news in 2 newspapers. I'd seen it a few days before going around on the internet. It took that much time for the media to pick it up. It turned out the BBC had been given it 6 months before in full, the ClimateGate emails, where you've got the top 3 universities in Europe, England, and the U.S., all colluding with each other to lie and say that the oceans were going to rise and the ice caps were going to melt and that carbon dioxide was the cause, and it was them premeditatedly admitting they were lying, hiding the decline, manipulating temperature data that they were getting from around the world from governments. They were just changing the numbers. They've been caught. And I got up here on air and I said, this is a chance to snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat. Copenhagen was guaranteed to pass global taxes paid to the IMF and World Bank on all fossil fuel use and all carbon footprints, including what Bill Gates has even announced and the UN's announced, taxes on your exhaling, because that is carbon dioxide. All animals exhale carbon dioxide. Plants respirate and have their photosynthesis from the carbon dioxide we exhale. They release oxygen, part of the carbon cycle. But they had convinced people this was deadly poison. It was kind of their inside little joke. And so they had sold everyone on this, and I got up on air, and I said, you're going to hear about this in the next few weeks. And people for a week or so asked if the emails were a hoax and if I was even making it up. Okay? So the rest is history. You now know what happened with that, and we were instrumental, along with the Drudge Report, with driving that story out in the United States, into the mainstream media. It took us 3 weeks until that was finally in the mainstream news in the U.S. There was a news blackout everywhere in the U.S. but DrudgeReport.com and Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Okay, there was a news blockade, and we wrote articles about that and said, call talk radio. It took Limbaugh 2 weeks to cover it. It took Savage a week to cover it. It took Hannity 2 weeks to cover it. And I'm not saying those guys are bad. The point is, you know, Drudge and I, we were first in the U.S., but Drudge second. We commend Drudge. Drudge now linked to us twice again last week, 3 times before that. I mean, it's incredible, the amount of but side issue. The point is, we were able to drive that out into the open together. We were able to break that media blockade and cut through the lies. And we can do that together right now, here today. Paul Watson gave up his Saturday and his Sunday to write this article in consultation with myself and to transcribe what you're about to hear. Now, I won't have time to read the entire 8-page article, but I'll assure you this is as important as LeBron James' fan appreciation worship session, where he's the new pope and people go into an auditorium and bow down to him and he barely shows up. You know, if we could get 4,000 Americans in every big city, that'd be millions put together. If we could get people as concerned about what's about to happen, you know, most people are watching this Gulf spill like it's a spectator sport and getting into the whining and complaining and why won't they fix it and something needs to be done and arrest BP. Look, don't worry, BP's going to laugh last, and they're definitely part of this unless people wake up and take action on this issue. Now, here is the headline. And this is up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com right now. It is a plan of action, a plan of victory. If you will simply take action, this is such a huge issue. So start your engines, InfoWarriors. It's got the phone numbers on it. And I'm going to add the number to Rick Perry, and I'm going to also add the number to Alabama and then the East Coast states. But the most important are Louisiana, Mississippi, and Florida right now. Their phone numbers and email are there. So get ready, folks. You want to do something instead of just sitting there and sucking your thumbs. You want to have an effect. And I'm talking to people that, again, went to LeBron James appreciation and he didn't even really show up for the event. I'm talking to those folks who were sucking their thumbs. I know my listeners are not thumb suckers. The point is, if you want to actually do something, you call other talk show hosts, you call newspapers, you tell them, get on this story. You send this to other websites. You tell them, get on it now. Get on it now and look at this information you're about to hear, because this is as big as ClimateGate. This is a house of cards ready to fall. This is a dangerous gamut. This is a deadly dangerous strategic move, roll the dice by the New World Order, and we have a very good chance of torpedoing them to the bottom of the ocean, figuratively, to the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico. They have miscalculated. If you take the bull by the horns, if you take action. So when we come back after this quick break, I'm breaking it down. States need to launch criminal investigation into BP. Okay, my friends, we are back live. Again, thank you for joining us. States need to launch criminal investigation into BP. Federal government's role in oil spill. You heard me right. I have read the Coast Guard's hearings, interviewing the people that were on board the emergency ships and the oil rig that survived, including the head of the drilling rig operation, the head of the operation for Halliburton as well. You've all heard the endless trivia in the news, but kind of hidden in the back that, oh, yes, the people on the rig, they knew months before. First it was weeks before, then a month before, now it's 2 months before, that BP executives from Houston, there were arguments on the ship over the satellite phone in front of the employees saying no one's ever dumped salt water in on top one of these instead of cement and mud. This is going to blow up. So we know they gave them an order that would cause it to blow up. We know they then blocked the states for the last 60-something days now from people being able to go out with the oil booms and block the estuaries so the oil couldn't go up into the rivers and streams and salt marshes where most of the fish go to lay their eggs and where the manatees live and where the dolphins calve. And so all of that's going on. But let me just go over the article itself, because it hits every point and puts on the case that needs to be criminally investigated. Clearly, BP gave the order knowing this was going to happen. But it may be even worse. They may have just blown it, because they're the top globalist company pushing for the global carbon tax. They've been the big oil company trying to get the other oil companies nationalized to get rid of their competition. States need to launch criminal investigation into BP, federal government's role in oil spill. There can now be no doubt whatsoever that BP oil spill was purposefully contrived, either through deliberate negligence or outright sabotage, and is now being used to further the Obama administration's political agenda. Criminal investigations into the government and BP's role in the disaster need to be launched by state authorities in Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi immediately. That's immediately, ladies and gentlemen. There can no longer be any doubt. Criminal investigations into the government and BP's role in the disaster need to be launched by the state authorities in Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi immediately, while local authorities, public servants, also need to call emergency legislative sessions in order to take over emergency response efforts from the feds before the crisis gets much worse. Absolutely. Obama wants to play golf the last 2 days and go to parties, and the head of BP wants to go sail around on yachts. They're laughing at you. And, 6+ weeks ago, he dispatches some Nobel laureate down there, some egghead. Oh, here's a Harvard lawyer. He'll fix it.